Good morning, comic book fans. Welcome back to Comics in 5 Minutes. I'm Revelodo Shorty, and just totally going to start the comic book called Benjamin. It's all it's called, just Benjamin. And honestly, a title like that doesn't really make me want to go and grab it. Maybe a little bit curious as why you would just call a comic Benjamin, but then I saw the cover, and it's Christian Ward, who is not only a wonderful artist, but also a genuine, lovely guy. And I was like, yeah, okay, check it out. I know he's not going to be the same internal artist, that's Leo Max, and I don't know if that's like an abbreviation of two other names, or if he actually called Leo Max. You call Leo Max, I don't know. And written by Ben H. Winters. I don't really know anything about these other creators other than Ward, so I kind of trusted my vague curiosity of the title and the fact that Ward has done this amazing cover and thought, yeah, okay, let's give it a shot. And sometimes when you read stuff like that with Ward on the cover, there's a hint you could be disappointed by the internal artwork. In this case, really didn't happen. The art is brilliant, it's understated when it needs to be. An awful lot of it is just day-in-the-life kind of stuff. This is a story of a guy who doesn't really know what's going on, and is trying to figure an awful lot of stuff out based on his understanding of the world. And it is just a normal world, for the most part. There's a couple of really excellent moments which show a bit more of a depth to the artistry, but not in a way that the rest of it isn't great, by the way. But we have moments where these mystery elements come into play, and we get a far deeper depth to the colouring, slightly more esoteric artwork, less structure, the ability to and willingness to play with form just that little bit, and it adds to the story in interesting ways. And the story itself is fascinating, it's brilliant. When I first started reading it, it reminded me of two brilliant other works of fiction that I thoroughly enjoy, one being Garth Marenghi's Dark Place, partly because there's a little bit of an author insert idea, but using that for storytelling, which is effectively done, and also Benjamin is about as insufferable as I think Garth Marenghi would be. And, well, I've been to a live reading and a book signing from Holness, who stayed in the Marenghi character the entire time. And yeah, I definitely wouldn't want to go out for a drink with them, but he's absolutely fascinating to encounter. And the titular Benjamin in this one, is exactly the same. Not just a writer of science fiction rather than horror, although he does like it being called science fiction. He's a futurist, and he doesn't really know what he's doing in the place he is. He wakes up with no memory, and he kind of exists in this world where he's inserted himself into a story, and now he's experiencing what it'd be like for him to be in that story. Not exactly the same as Dark Place, or any of the other Garth Marenghi books, but interesting enough that it has those parallels, and I was enjoying that for what it did. The other thing it reminded me of to a certain degree was the latest Stephen King book was Everly book, the Windhorn book. I was absolutely forgotten the Helen of Windhorn, which again, not quite author insert, but kind of this idea that there is more exciting stories out there that exist within speculative fiction, but it turns out might actually be truer than you think. Not in a very boring H.P. Lovecraft was actually tormented by Eldritch Horrors kind of way. In this particular case, again, it is a writer who is writing stories who then discovers that he may be in one of the stories. So not exactly what we got from Helen of Windhorn, but interesting enough that it had some parallels. And those are two stories I absolutely love. I was hooked based on just those ideas, and I was interested to see where it was going to go. Throughout this first issue, though, we don't get into much of that. It is far more, as I say, day in the life of kind of thing. But the writer, Ben H. Winters, does a really good job of putting characters in situations where nothing like big and extraordinary and spectacular happens, but they give opportunities for character development, for world development and story development. There's one moment where it feels like after seeing one of the other non-titular characters going through some stuff, we find out an awful lot about who they are because of the way they react to the situation, and then later on Benjamin literally spells that out. For other stories, that might come across as like far more the telling rather than the showing, especially when the showing has been done so brilliantly up until this point. But the act of Benjamin saying what he says to this other character in the way he says it adds to who Benjamin is, and also to who this other character is. It not just telling them who they are, but also showing development and growth even within the few pages of the comic book we had so far. Honestly, brilliantly well done, and kind of exciting. We get this really nice reveal at the end to kind of like sum up everything that's gone before and totally get you hooked into what's going to happen in the following issue. Brilliantly done first issue, and absolutely makes me want to read the rest of it. And I've got to be honest, in reviewing the comic book, rather than just the reading of it, I've come to it's better than I thought it was. Some of the day-in-the-life stuff I thought might be a little bit like pedestrian, and I was going to struggle to get excited about it when I was talking about it. But then actually realizing how effectively it was done to add to character, add to world building, add to story, and show character growth and world building growth, I was like, oh damn, this is better than I thought it was. I am absolutely going to check the rest of this out. Maybe wait until it gets collected, I don't know, but yeah, Only Press, again, knocked it out of the park. That's it for me for now, though. Until I see you all again, look after you, everyone. Stay safe. Bye!